Just trying to keep myself balanced here in 100-plus degree weather with an absolute titan of music. Some people would say luck is the residue of design. Branch Rickey said that, but he's been everywhere at the right place at the right time, and because of his ability to serve the song, he's been on so many different albums. Is carving his own path into music greatness. Still doing it. Wayne Perkins, welcome back to the Jake Feinberg Show.
Hey, Jake, how are you today?
You know, I'm better now that I hear your voice, man.
Thank you, brother.
Yeah, baby. You know, I wanted to just ask you a little bit about, to start, your brother. Can you talk about your musical relationship with your brother and this band, Crimson Tide?
Yeah, I was working solo myself, and my brother was in a band he had called Alabama Power Band, working at a club called the Crossroads in Birmingham. And I'd been working in muscle shows with Tim Smith on a bunch of songs. And we had a few things together, but I went down to hear my brother and them play, and I was blown away by the way they were doing all these tunes. I mean, anything off the radio, man, they were nailing it. So I got to sitting around talking with them and everything, and asked them if they'd like another member with some original songs. And we started talking about it and everything, and they got excited about it as I did. And ended up having my attorney, Mickey Shapiro, pitch some stuff to different labels for us. And he took us to Capitol Records. And we ended up getting a deal there with those guys for a 3-album deal. And this would have been 76-ish. And we did 2 albums for Capitol. We didn't get to the third one, but we did do 2. One was just regular Crimson Tide. The second one was called Reckless Love, and they were good songs on both of them, I thought. But that was how we ended up being called Crimson Tide. That was their idea because of the fame of Alabama, and
Absolutely.
I guess our famous football team or whatever. But so we ended up being called Crimson Tide, had those 2 records, and had minimal success, but it was a good experience for me.
When you say it was a power band, I mean, I just want to be clear. You coming into the band, you brought original material. Up to that point, they had been only doing covers.
Yeah. Hang on one second.
Sure.
Trying to get over the flu bug, but yeah, I had some original stuff I'd been working on with Tim Smith and some things by myself as well. But they just could play anything. I mean, off the radio and everything, and they nailed these songs. And we got with a couple of producers from Capitol, John Carter and Richard Landis came down, and we worked in my brother's little studio he had out back of a house, and we put together a decent thing for the first album, and ended up landing a deal with Capitol. But I was amazed at the way they just nailed the parts on everything I wanted. It was really good, you know.
Did you get a chance to tour after the first album?
Well, we did some regional stuff. We toured, around the South and everything, and did some gigs in Florida and over in Georgia and everything. But it was just mainly working, trying to get the band tighter and everything.
Did you share the bill with anybody in particular, like Marshall Tucker or
Yeah, we did some gigs around with Louisiana LaRue, which is good friends and a tight band. And we also, in Birmingham, we opened a show at the Civic Center for Styx, which was,
wow.
Wow,
that is so sick, dude.
Yeah, we were able to get on with some good acts and promoted some things, but it almost got off the ground. It was not quite as explosive as those other bands we played with, though, but it was really a good experience for us.
I wanted to talk to you about a guy. There's a couple cats going back.
Yeah.
this Alabama State Troopers.
Oh yeah,
You know,
Don Nix.
when did you first meet? How did you first meet Don Nix?
Don Nix came into Muscle Shoals Sound, bringing different people that I got to play with as a session player. He brought in, Albert King was one of them for sure that really came to mind. And I got to play on that Lovejoy, Illinois album and the one after that. Can't recall the name right now, but I got to play with him and a couple of other artists. And one of the first sessions I did there was with Lonnie Mack on his Hills of Indiana.
Oh,
tour,
my God, man. That is a great album.
Yeah. That was my first record to be on a major session with him.
Right.
So and he and I wrote a bunch of songs after that I'm planning on releasing some of them soon. But anyway, Nix came in and did a couple of his solo albums. One was called Living by the Days, and I can't recall. Let's see, the second one I think Hobos, Heroes, and Street Corner Clowns, and we ended up doing some of that in shows, and we did some of it at Apple Studios in London. Let me think a minute. That was the way I pretty much met Don and June Productions. He came up with Muscle Shoals Sound, so it was a cool situation, and he's still a good friend.
I was going to say because he had connections to George Martin. I mean, how did you guys make it over to Apple?
Well, Perkins Smith got signed to Island Records, and we were over there already. And we had done the work at Muscle Shoals Sound, and I'm not sure I knew that it wasn't so much George Martin. It was just I think he had booked in some time over there, and he knew George Harrison. And I'd met Harrison before at his house through Patty, and I met him, and we became friends. And it's just one of those things where we ended up over there in the studio, and he came in and watched us cut a couple of things, and then I don't know. It's just friends helping friends out, I think.
Oh, I did. Wait, hold on. I want to be clear. When you were at Island, Harrison was there and saw you playing?
No. It was Patty was the one I met through some of the friends in L.A. when I was doing session work out there. So I met there, and Don took me up to George Harrison's house. I guess would have been in '71, right around the time of the Bangladesh thing. And
Right.
So I could have feasibly been on that, but Jesse Ed Davis beat me to the punch. So what are you going to do? Timing, brother, I guess.
Hold on. Please, for the record, who is Patty? I don't know who's Patty.
Layla.
Oh, can you? I mean, I'm not hip to. So,
George Harrison's ex-wife.
Okay.
That became Eric's woman, and Patty and her little sister Paula were friends of mine out there. And
I dig. So you became. So let me ask you something. First of all, I got to get the chronology here. 71, Hills of Indiana. Living by the Days, Don Nix, Lovejoy, Albert King. That was all cut at Quinn Ivy?
Muscle Shoals Sound. And Muscle Shoals Sound. And the one after that, Hobos, Heroes, and Street Corner Clowns were done, I think, there. And also at Apple, we cut a couple of things over there with Don Nix, myself, and Tim and Steve Smith from Perkins Smith. Right.
So my question is, what was the, you were obviously able to sing for your supper at Muscle Shoals Sound and as a studio musician. What was the
signed to Island?
Right. So what was the incentive why did you move to L.A.?
Well, I'd been going back and forth to L.A. doing sessions out there. It started out when Dan Penn came to Muscle Shoals Sound and brought Ronnie Millsap, and I worked on Ronnie's first album.
Wow.
So I met Ronnie that way and Dan Penn. And so Chris Etheridge came in to play bass on it. And Chris and I met up and became good friends. And he said, "Oh, they're gonna love you in L.A., buddy." So he booked me on a couple of things out there. Hence, I ended up in L.A. And so
I need you.
how
I need you to just, if you can. This warmed my heart. You made my day, dude. Chris Etheridge, Mississippi cat. I'm pretty sure, right?
Yeah, he was.
You want to talk about that cat because I think he gets lost in the shuffle sometimes as being. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, he was one of the original Wrecking Crew, but he's often not mentioned that way.
No, not. But he was also in the Flying Burrito Brothers. But he was a main section player on a lot of stuff that was done out there. And he got me on some stuff. Jesus, whose album was that?
I really need to know who was it. It wasn't Jeannie Green, was it?
No, Jeannie Green. We cut her stuff in Muscle Shoals.
Right.
And we also did some stuff on Marlon Green, her husband there.
Oh my God! So Millsap. But was Etheridge on the Millsap sessions too?
Yeah, that's how I met him.
Wow. Well, no. I want to be clear. He didn't you meet him when Ronnie came? Did he come to Muscle Shoals Sound with Ronnie, or is that the first time you met him?
No, it's the first time I met him, but Dan Penn called him in, and I don't know if Ronnie brought him or his suggestion. But yeah, he came down for that session. That's how we met up. And he brought me to L.A. and I stayed with him and his family out there in Laurel Canyon. And so it was a cool thing. He started taking me around to these sessions, and I remember that one session. I can't remember who the artist was.
I'm gonna read off some names. Maybe it'll strike a chord. You ready?
Well, I was going to tell you on one of these things was I think it could have been Jim Gordon or Keltner that played on this album that I played on was with me and Booker T was playing organ and Dave Mason was on guitar. I was on guitar.
Was it J.D. Souther?
J.D. Souther, yeah, it might have been J.D.'s record.
And he just passed.
I do. I know.
Okay, so you're thinking that. So was JD a Southern cat too, or was he already a West Coast cat?
I'm not sure. He was out there when I met him, so I'm not sure exactly where JD was from.
I got another thing here. P.F. Sloan.
P.F. Sloan was another one of those records. Yeah, that he got me on.
I got another one called Mike Harrison.
Yeah, Mike Harrison was done though in Muscle Shoals. Chris Blackwell bought him to Muscle Shoals, and we cut his album there. It was called Smokestack Lightning, I think.
You're darn right it was. What about the Everly Brothers?
Yeah, the Everly Brothers was one of the ones I did out there, and that's where Chris had hooked me up with Paul Rothschild. And he produced that record, and I was on there with Clarence White, and who was the other player? Ry Cooter.
Oh, my God. Dude, Wayne Perkins, man.
Yeah, there was the three of us on that record playing guitars, and Chris, and I can't remember specifically who the drummer was. It might have been Keltner, because Jimmy was on a lot of stuff. I mean, from way back then, he was always one of the first studio calls, I think.
At that point, he was number one in the folk rock vein, that's for sure.
Yeah, but there was also, I did some stuff with, let's see, I was bouncing back and forth in New York and Muscle Shoals and different places, but I did a record in New York with, we had three drummers, Jesus Christ, and I think it might have been Michael Bolton's record. We had Steve Gadd, and Andy Newmark and Gordon.
Oh, my, 1975.
Yeah, it was 75. It was prior to the Stones deal, I think.
Well, no, and it was under. This is why it's so crazy. It's under his name, Michael Bolton, not Bolton.
Bolton, yeah.
Bolton.
Yeah. I went to his house and met him and his whole family. I might have stayed with him a couple of days, but what a great guy, man. He cut one of my songs called "Lost to the City," and
wow.
Yeah, that was on his first record.
Wow. Are you still getting royalties for that?
I think I do. It's not knocking the doors down. But
dude, you don't need to worry about that, man.
It trickles in.
Wayne, I wanted to ask you, as it relates to any of these, I don't care specifics, but there was also Alex Taylor, James Taylor's brother. That might have been done in Muscle Shoals Sound. I don't know.
Oh no, you're thinking about. Let's think a minute. Taylor, Alex. I played on his. I played bass on Alex Taylor's
Yeah,
record.
called Dinner Time.
Dinner Time.
You
Yeah,
you played
that
bass
was
on
the
that?
record. Yeah, I did.
Oh
Yeah,
my!
and that was one of the songs were written by Scott Boyer, a friend of mine, who passed also
Dude,
not too
he
long
was in
ago.
Cowboy, man.
Yeah, he was
Dude,
one
you
of the
know who
great
was a
writers.
I need to ask you about this cat because he
Yeah,
left us and we did a beautiful interview. Tommy Talton.
yeah, Tommy. They're both friends of mine. I hadn't seen Tommy in forever, but I was roommates with Scott out there for a while. We wrote a couple of things. I don't think they ever got recorded, but yeah, Scott was he was a gem. You know.
Did you, as it relates to the J.D. Souther
Yeah.
or um, or let's see, P.F. Sloan or
Yeah.
any of the stuff? Can you like when you're in when you were in the studio with Clarence and Rye? I mean, at that time, I mean, everybody was hitting at the same time.
Yeah, they
And
were.
I wanted you to talk about how you learned, how you worked to balance yourself. There were I don't even know, there weren't even monitors in the studio, were there?
Well, not out where we were. There was monitors for sure where Paul Rothschild was producing. But I'm trying to think of who else. There was the other studio right down the police station off of Wilcox there in Hollywood. What was the name of
Yeah,
that?
I'm gonna have to get that. I know what you're talking about, but
Yeah, but that was where we did the JD stuff, and I think I went in there one time, and Graham Nash, I met him. He was working on some stuff with Terry Reid. I think he was producing the Seed of Memory record, which was killer. And Terry's a friend of mine. I hadn't seen him forever. But, yeah, I wanted to work on that record, but they were already locked in pretty well. But let me think a minute. What was the name of that studio?
now I'm gonna get. I know what I wanted you to talk about was like how, because in today's world, you have three monster guitar players.
Yeah.
You're overdubbing each one of their solos. So my question is, when you and Rye and Clarence were hitting at the same time, how did that work so that there wasn't like
any clashes?
Yeah, like they were like the bleed.
I don't know.
Yeah, you guys just knew how to balance yourselves.
Absolutely. I can, if Ryan had the lead part on something, I could balance myself around him doing chords or rhythms or whatever it took. And also the same thing, but see, we didn't have so much to worry about that because Rothschild would call the particular song and see our characters and everything, which ones to place with which tune. So it was not, there wasn't a real battle going on there for headlining or anything. We were just trying to, custom fit the song. So it worked out pretty cool for all of us, I think. Everybody had their own thing they were doing, and it was their character, and you could hear it in the song.
But what you're saying is that, like, on certain songs, it was just Wayne Perkins. On certain songs, it was just Ry Cooder. It wasn't all three of you at the same time.
Well, I don't know. I think some of it could have been. Some of it was definitely. I remember Clarence and I playing on one thing. I remember Ryan and I playing on one thing. But as far as having the three of us on the same song, I don't know that ever happened.
I dig.
So I have to go back and read the credits and everything. But it was a fun-filled time. Boy, it was a great record, I thought.
Okay, so I want to read this from Spooner. This is from my interview with Spooner. He said, when I moved out to L.A., Chris Etheridge kept calling me and saying, quote, "These people bought this little funky building from Mike Curb. It's called Sidewalk Productions, and they're going to make it into a recording studio, and that was called Producer's Workshop." Was that the place?
No, that's Producer's Workshop is where my ex-partner, I wrote a lot of the Crimson Tide stuff with, Richard Wolf works.
Whoa.
Yeah, he works there, but the studio I was talking about was
Sunset Studios or something, maybe, or
no, Sunset was up there on the boulevard. I was trying to think of the name
it'll
of this
come
place.
to you. Yeah.
It was right. I could. In fact, I came out the door one time and was going to get a bite, and I looked over there and I saw two cops getting out of a car, and one of them was Eddie Haskell. I
No
swear to God,
way.
I broke down laughing. I
Oh
couldn't believe
my
it.
God.
Eddie Haskell was down,
No
Hollywood Cop.
way.
I swear it was classic.
So
How
how did
about that?
this is so beautiful, man. Like, um, going back to, I'm just trying to get so like Boyer and those cats. I thought those guys were like part of the Atlanta crew, but were they Alabama cats?
Who's this now?
Boyer, Scotty Boyer.
Oh, Scott Boyer. No, he was a Georgia guy. He came out of let me think, somewhere in Georgia, man. I think him and Tarleton
And
did.
Tommy. So I mean, would you remember how you originally crossed paths with Boyer?
I think in Muscle Shoals is when we first met up. I'm trying to figure. I don't know that there. No, wait a minute. It might have been when I played bass on the song that he wrote for dinner time that Alex did. I played bass on it.
That's right. So you went. So you actually went to. Well, wait a minute, because I know that
I met him when I was overdubbing in Muscle Shoals Sound, bass on the dinner time record, and Scott and I somehow ended up on a lake in Muscle Shoals up there, living in the same house, and we wrote a couple of things up there. I wish I had copies of.
Oh my gosh, man! Wait. Hold on for a second. Because I thought Alex cut those records at Capricorn Studios in Georgia.
Well, he did some of his records. He did I think maybe most of them there, but he came up to Muscle Shoals Sound and used the Swampers on it because
I did.
You know, and I was in there at the last minute, and they were hearing some kind of thing that didn't happen with the section, so I thought I was going to get to play guitar, and I ended up playing bass on it. And I had this line in my head that wouldn't go away, and it was on bass. It was not on guitar, so that's what we ended up putting on there. And I can't remember the name of the tune, but
that's so beautiful. You're telling me that was Hood not around, or he just couldn't get the right groove, or?
Well, I don't know. I can't recall specifically what ended me up on bass, but that's a rarity because David Hood could always nail whatever it was.
Everything, man. I think that's just so cool. I'm gonna have to go find out that track. Is that the only?
Myself when you do.
I will. No, when. Is that as far as you can remember? That's the only time you ever recorded on an album on bass.
I don't know. I mean, that's the only one that really jumps out to mind. But crap, I don't know. It was. Everybody in the pool, man. It was 53 years ago, and it was one of those things where I was kind of adjusting the Muscle Shoals Sound, and we just kind of, maybe it was something where Hood wasn't around, or he'd gone home to sleep or whatever, because I think it might have been a late hour when we did that.
Mm-hmm.
But it was just one of those things that just, they wanted to hear something a little different. I don't know. You know how the studio stuff goes.
The other thing I was going to ask you is,
yeah.
You recorded with Bill Wyman, but just because, because of the Stones, and because of Jimmy Lee Kellner.
Actually, I did play bass on Bill Wyman's album. Now that's kind of funny.
Monkey Grip,
As you mentioned it, he was working at Ike Turner Studio, and Leon and said, "Come on with me." And so we got in the car and rode over there, and I didn't know where the hell we were going or what was going to happen. So we got over there, and Bill was working in the studio, and he said, "Yeah, I want you to play on this thing." I said, "Okay, great." So he showed me this tune. I can't remember what it was, but he showed it to me, and I said, "Well, what kind of sound you want me to get?" He says, "Oh, I'm going to play guitar. You're going to play bass." I said, "Oh, okay." So that's how that happened. I mean, it's just... One thing Leon Russell told me, whatever they throw at you, accommodate, or, do your best or whatever you can do. So I still I don't recall that song or hadn't heard it since, but, I think it turned out pretty good, or Bill wouldn't have used it. It was on Monkey Grip, I think was the name of the record.
Monkey Grip, baby. Your memory is so good. 1970, 74, it looks like. And that's also
74.
That's when you did Hobos, Heroes, and Street Corner Clowns.
Yeah, that was 73, I think it was. Yeah. I was in and out of London a lot, in L.A. So
Did you know Furry Lewis well?
Oh yeah.
Tell me about him, man. I would love to know who that guy, what he was all about.
Oh, he was great, man. Furry was, just a real gentleman. But he was a hell of a writer and everything. He'd love to pull things out of the hat on you. Because see, when we got on the Alabama State Troopers, we got on that tour. Don Nick says, I want you to take care of Furry for me. And I said, sure. What's up? And he said, well, I want you guys to room together and everything. So we did. We shared a room at wherever we stayed. Those gigs, we did some gigs up in San Francisco, and we ended up going to Long Beach Civic Auditorium.
Wow.
And we did 2 or 3 major gigs out there. And then we came to the Warehouse in New Orleans and did some gigs there. And also, what was that little town up in, it was not in New Orleans, it was around.
Now, Baton Rouge, maybe?
It might have been Baton Rouge. It was a place called Willie Purple's.
Wow.
Yeah, so some of these things are just popping back in because you mentioned it.
I'm shaking it loose, man.
Huh?
I'm shaking it loose.
Oh Lord, it was a pretty good run for that band. I mean, we was a 15-piece band that just kicked butt.
Wait, hold on for a second. I need to ask you. Was Nick's kicking a B3 on that tour?
No, Don just pretty much did the singing.
Right.
He stood out front and did the singing, and the B3 was a guy named Ken Woodley, I think. But he was one of the Memphis players that Don brought in there.
Wow.
And we got the drummer was Jerry Lee Lewis's old drummer, Tarp Durant, and also Fred Prouty was the other drummer, and he worked a lot at Fame. But he threw all these players together in a pile and said, do this. And Clayton Ivey was the Steinway player on that. And we were rehearsed the tour at this little studio next door to Muscle Shoals Sound called Widget. And we all boxed in there and started playing this stuff, and it just killed. It just kicked butt. And so we got out and had some fun with it. But Furry, and to answer a question or two, I think he was just a great guy. It was so cool to see him. Nick's got him a rocking chair, and we were playing at these gigs, and he'd sit on the side of the stage rocking back and forth, and he had a little brown bag down beside his chair.
Oh, I love this so much.
And if he ever got a rush on what we were playing, he'd stand up, and he'd take his hat off, and he'd wave it at the crowd. And I mean, he was talking shit in between the songs and everything. He says, I like you little girls. He said, I might get one of y'all to go back to the house with me. He said, I'll pay you,
I'll pay you, man.
I'll pay you. And he'd sit down there and he'd pick up that brown bag and he'd hit it where he think we weren't looking,
Was he a piano player?
Who? Don?
Furry.
Furry, no, he just sit there with his acoustic. No, I don't know if he ever did a keyboard.
You know what I was curious about, though? Like that was such an interesting time in, 73, 74, because, you were still...
Well, that tour now, the Alabama State Troopers thing was in 71. That's before I went to England. So that would have been then. Okay,
so my question is, I mean, if you were playing auditoriums and civic centers... Right. Was it an amplified electric setting? I mean, how did Furry even...
Oh, yeah.
But, I mean, he was playing acoustic, though. How did he even hear himself?
Well, he sat down in front of the stage, and they had him mic'd up real good.
Oh, my God.
Side throws on the stage. But, they had him balanced out pretty good. And, with his brown bag, he balanced himself out even better.
So
Furry was good though, man.
I mean, dude, Wayne, do you realize how cosmic all this is? I mean, Nick's was a Memphis cat, and then and
I was pretty much a Muscle Shoals guy.
You were a Muscle Shoals cat. Boyer and Tommy are the Atlanta cats.
They were Georgia
You
guys.
knew. I mean, you got to know. Did you know Cropper and Duck Dunn?
Oh yeah,
Oh,
Cropper used to come around now. in the Crimson Tide's second album, Reckless Love, Duck Dunn produced that.
Oh my, yeah, Duck Dawn, babe. No,
Cropper came
that's right, the
around.
Levon album too.
Yeah. Cropper came around, and then we became buddies. He cut one of my songs called "Hold Your Fire" on his solo record. That turned out pretty cool.
What about? Can you talk about your relationship with James Burton?
Well, I've met James, I think, one time, but we didn't really get to play together. I always wanted to play with him. He was one of my main influences, and him and Cropper were the two main reasons that I bought a Telecaster in, what year was it, 65, 66?
Wow.
Yeah, they were my main influences, those two guys.
Can you talk about, was it more about the placement of the notes, the way they told stories on the guitar? What was it?
It was just, I'll tell you what, it was their, I guess it was spiritual transfer for me. I mean, it was like what they did. They put their soul in the middle of these changes and stuff and would work around parts of the vocal. They just knew what to do that would accommodate or, embellish the melody of the song. And Cropper wrote, Jesus Christ, I mean, he wrote, what was the song, Knock on Wood?
Yep.
And Midnight Hour, did he write that?
Did he write that for, what was it, for Otis he wrote that for, maybe?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
One of the Otis, and I know he wrote Dock of the Bay with Otis. Let's see.
But it was the soul interjection within the tunes themselves that lent themselves to the...
Yeah. Absolutely. And the Booker T stuff, I mean, Hip Hugger and all that stuff that they did coming out of Memphis. Well, see, we had like a little competition at Muscle Shoals with all the soul stuff coming out of there with Aretha and everybody. But we had a friendly competition going on with Memphis and Nashville, and we were all three like, who's going to have the powerhouse this year?
I love that, no, because you're right. You nailed it, man. You're right in my brain because, you know what, that makes sense with because I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but David Porter came to Muscle Shoals first.
Porter and Hayes, yeah, but David Porter, we cut a record with him, and he and Isaac did what was that song? Jesus Christ.
I mean those guys
wrote that one.
Yeah.
I mean, Cropper wrote a bunch of stuff. Good God.
But what you're saying is like a lot of these bigger, like Porter, he would go to Muscle Shoals Sound, then maybe the next year he'd go to Stax.
He started out, I think, in Stax with Walking the Dog and all that.
Right.
No, it was.
But essentially, like you're talking about this, it was a friendly competition between like.
It was.
Yeah.
It was, and it was like Jim Stewart, and they'd come down, bring us stuff to listen to, and Cropper come down and play us Freddie King's new record.
Yeah.
I mean, we never knew what was coming through the door with those guys. Jim Stewart would bring his artist in there and say, "What do you guys got? Look what I got," kind of thing. And there was not a lot of bragging going on. We'd say, "Well, this is the direction we're going in," and it would be kind of bragging without bragging, And but it was a cool situation because we were always trying to better the other one, or always trying to maybe enhance them or shock them a little bit with something we had they didn't have.
I love, dude, because it's really interesting when you think about, each one of the Muscle Shoals Sound or the Swampers and Fame, and then in Nashville, and then in Memphis. I mean, all three of those, I have to believe, just because of the players, with Roger Hawkins and with Al Jackson, and then Kenny Buttrey and those cats, like everybody.
Kenny Buttrey.
Yeah, every one of those guys felt the beat in a different place, so the sound was just slightly different in each region.
Exactly, and the producers. I mean, Jesus Christ, they had hits with all those players. I mean,
right.
It's you just had to sort of pick out the ones you wanted on which record, or if there was a hot section, you liked their sound on whatever, you'd take your songs and then see what they could do with them. Like, what Carson wrote was The Letter, Box Tops, and Alex did a hell of a vocal on that. I mean, Jesus Christ. give me a ticket for an airplane. You know, and we lived in the same building over in Memphis. I mean, yeah, in Memphis.
I mean, it was also like you were able to have. It never got braggadocious because there was enough work to go around. That's the thing that's upsetting today for me is that there's just not enough studio work for enough people.
I think there is if they just re-examine where they came from and the roots and everything. If people would come back, I mean, the heart and soul of the music business, I think, started out down here. You know, as far as like the popular stuff goes and the things for the radio, seems to be, you know, coming from Memphis or Nashville or Muscle Shoals that had a real heart to it. I mean, you know, we had some serious artists come in there, but they never left unhappy. I'll put it that way.
I just feel like the musicians had a lot of creative control. I mean, Chris Etheridge, basically, Spooner said, he's like, well, you know, I'm playing bass on these sessions, but I really want Spooner on these sessions. Or he'd say, you know, I like Wayne Perkins, I want him on these sessions. I don't know, man. Like, it was so loose and fancy-free, everybody was getting a piece of the apple pie. And now it's like, you have these entourages and these beans.
Yeah, there was more than enough to go around, and now it's people like, you know, cutthroat business. I'm just going, please.
Exactly. No, I'm telling you, like, do you remember, like, when the bean counters really sunk their teeth into this? Because for so many years in your career, for a good decade, it was so loose that, you know, you were just you know, just through dumb luck, making connections, and people are like, yeah, you know, and no bean counters, no lawyers, just people saying, I like his groove, man, let's bring him in for the session.
Yeah, well, what can you add to this thing? And, you know, it's like, I mean, one of the things is I tripped into a lot of stuff just being in L.A., but there was also a lot of stuff that you get calls on. You know, like, it especially happened to me after I did the Bob Marley stuff in London. I mean, I came back to L.A., and Leon Russell snagged me up, and all of a sudden I'm on 2 years tour with him.
Wow.
And, you know, got to work on some stuff with him and Mary McCreary, who he ended up marrying. You know, that was Mary Russell. Oh, my God, what an artist there. But you know, just all this talent, and there was plenty of space to go around for the players. I mean, but it was up to pretty much Leon as a producer and whoever you'd be working with like that as an artist, like Chip Smallman or Paul Rothschild or whoever would know who they wanted on what cut. So
they trusted the musicians.
Oh, God,
if they had a recommendation to bring somebody, it wasn't like, oh no, I'm bringing my guy in. It was I trust.
No. It was pretty much okay. This is what I want on the record, and usually, you know, come in and you do what you do, and they keep it and listen to it a while. If they didn't like it, they put somebody else on there, which was cool. If it wasn't what they wanted originally, but a lot of times producers didn't know, so they had to lean on the musicians for that, you know, and maybe somebody come up with what is it? Every town I go in, what is that song?
It might be out of my bag. No, I have to ask you as we
yes, sir.
We just blew through another 40 minutes with Wayne Perkins. It's like time is like water with you, it just flows. But my final question in set 2, Wayne, floor is yours. You know, it's somebody that you're looking to get a hold of. I thought she was with John Guerin, but you're telling me that you and Joni Mitchell were an item together?
Well, that was, see, this is so crazy because, yes, we went together for a little while and had some fun and recorded some and everything. She was just wonderful, man. She tried calling me, and I can't get back in touch with her. I tried this WhatsApp thing, and I hadn't been able to get it to work. But she called me, and it's been for the last 6 months I've been trying to reach her. So if you got a number,
I'm gonna send you Larry Klein's number. You got to call Larry, man.
I will. Shoot me his number.
I will. After this interview, I will send you. But I want to be clear. When Etheridge brought,
I was working somewhere. Jackson was in the studio. Brown was in the studio across the hall at A&M, and I came over there. I think to see him, and Spector was in there producing something. I think he was producing a cut on Nielsen and Cher.
Wow.
And I just said, me and Joni went in there and sat around, but see, she was breaking up with John Garrett when I walked in the studio.
This is so classic. There's
a picture of me and Joni standing there, and I've had this Eye of Horus, this Egyptian thing around my neck. Somebody stole it later. But anyway, yeah, it was just us standing there, talking and everything, and we kind of took a shine to each other, and I stayed with her and Kevin in that big house out there for a while. And Cher would come over, Kevin would go get her, and they'd go, Harvey Wallbanger in the room or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
And so they'd have their fun, but Joni, she and I had some big fun. I never knew what she was going to throw at me, though. It was kind of cool. And she come up, baby, wake up. What do you want for breakfast? I said, oh, hell, I don't know. Whatever you want to do. And she said, well, get up. There's a friend of mine I want you to meet. And so, okay. I get up, and I get a shower and everything, and I go down the stairs. There sits Dylan.
Wow.
And
wow.
Sitting there, they're talking the Planet Waves deal with Bob and everything.
Oh, my God, that's insane.
Yeah, but let me tell you, it's so weird. I walked by, and Dylan looked at me. We'd seen each other before somewhere. And he looked up, we kind of grinned at each other and nodded. And I walked by, and Kevin's looking at me, don't even mess with this conversation, buddy. So, okay, so I go on by and sit down at the table. And Joni sits his egg down in front of me, an omelet she'd made me, and everything. I'm sitting there eating. And Dylan walks over, and she said, go get your guitar. She said, no, I'll get it. You eat. So she went and got my acoustic, brought it to me and everything, and I'm sitting there playing. And and she had this girl, this luthier up from Canada, who had made this dulcimer and this zither and some other stuff that came in there and brought these instruments. She wanted me to try them out, and I put the guitar down for a minute, and I picked up the thing, and I said, oh, man, this is cool. It's real accurate, and the thing sounds good. I said, well, what do you want? This is rich. I said, I don't know about the zither, but this dulcimer is really nice.
You were rocking. I love you were playing those. Was that the first time you played those instruments?
No, I messed with them a little bit before, but it was the first time I tried to make sense of it, melody or whatever.
So cool.
But it was fun, and so I'm sitting there and playing this one thing, and they're trying to pick to me, and Dylan gets, he had the New York Times, he was reading while Kevin was trying to negotiate with him, and he folds it up, sticks it under his arm, and just walks off and leaves David standing there, and he walks over and sits down in front of me, and there's this bunch of these percussive things on the damn table, and I'm sitting there playing something, and I said, you want this? He said, no, you're doing fine. And so I said, okay. And I'm sitting there playing one of my tunes, and Dylan picks up a tambourine and starts shaking it.
Oh, my dude, you're making,
man.
My God, man.
How about this? No pressure here, buddy.
Dude, he might have been feeling pressure with Wayne Perkins there, man.
No.
Dude, all I'm saying, you're telling me that you're sitting there playing a hammered dulcimer, and Dylan comes over and picks up a
back then I got back on my acoustic.
Acoustic, right.
Dulcimer on the table, but I'm playing my acoustic, and Dylan walks over and he sits down. I asked him if he wanted my guitar. He said, no, you're doing fine, so I keep playing. Playing one of my tunes for Joni, and he picks up a tambourine and starts shaking it to my song, and I'm going, shit. Tambourine man, okay.
Oh, so, my God.
Yeah, it was just a magic moment, man. You can't put it into words.
Dude, that made my freaking week, man. That is the most beautiful. I want to be clear, though.
Yeah.
When Etheridge invited you out to stay with his family in Topanga, is that the first time you met Joni, or only after you got back from Ireland?
I think, let me think a minute where I met Joni. Jesus. Oh, I had come home from England. That would have been 72, and then Jackson was over there, and we'd been running together a little bit in L.A., and another reason I like to find him, because he could tell the story as good as me. But I was playing Perkins, and Jackson was opening the show for my band back then in Nottingham or somewhere.
Wow.
And he said, man, come on. He said, come on out and open this set with me. He said, I don't know if these guys are going to like me. I said, man, you'll do fine. He said, come on out here. So I went out before my band came on and did his set with him. And he got through it just fine. I played a little licks here and there. And so that's how we knew each other from England, and or from LA too, and just running together and doing little gigs here and there. But anyway, so.
But the point is that it wasn't when you were living in Topanga. It was after you got back.
No, that's how I met him. I'm about to tell you. Came back from England, and Isaac Taggart had a couple of houses over on the beach there, and I had a place up Pacific Palisades, one of his houses up there. He had, and I'd come over there, and Isaac and I were dear friends from long ago, and so I come in there, and I'm staying up there at this house, and Jackson and I were talking, and so he came over, and he and Joni were dating at that time. And I had my girlfriend, Siobhan Barron, with me at the time. And she was just drop dead knockout and everything. She was, I was 17, 18 or something.
Oh, yeah.
And she was sitting there going goo-goo, wanting to get with Jackson real quick. And Joni and I were sitting there eyeballing each other. It was one of those situations where, oh, no,
Oh, my. So, wait, I want to be clear. Who's Isaac?
Isaac Taggart, the founder of the Hard Rock Cafe.
Oh, my God.
I helped him start the old guitar bar at the Hard Rock. And this would have been 72-ish.
This is... okay, so, Wayne, we're gonna wrap this section up for the interview, but I want to tell you something. I'm going to hook you up. I'm going to send you a number for Joni. And that's going to be Larry Klein, and then if you want to get in touch with Jackson Brown, I'm going to send you the number.
Give me those two numbers.
Well, no, I'm going to tell you. There's a guy that you probably came across, and he was super tight with Jackson, and can definitely at least connect you with management. His name was Danny Korchmar. Did you know Danny?
I know Danny from I walked in. Danny was working on Bill Wyman's album, I think.
Dude, he's a dear friend. I haven't talked to him in a minute, but I'm going to send you his number for Jackson, and I'll send you Larry's number for Joni.
I got it.
You got to call.
Wonderful.
So they're not going to. I'm not telling them. You got to give them a call, but I'm sure that they will. If they can help you, they will.
Well, I mean, just it would be wonderful if I could get in touch with either one of them, man. It'd be great.
Oh no, dude! I'm gonna make, dude. You listen. Let's do another set next week. I'll give you a ring.
Man, we got to do that, and also it would really help me out with this documentary they're shooting on.
No, I'm gonna, dude. This is, and also I want to talk to your wife too. Or your ex-wife, excuse me, from the Smithsonian.
Teresa, did you get the call?
You never gave me your number.
Oh, I thought I shot it to you. I'm sorry, brother. That's my fault.
Wayne, dude, I'm having such a ball. You just, that Dylan story just put me on cloud 9, dude. So listen, I'll send you those numbers right now, and I'll call you next week, and we'll set up a time to do another session.
That would be wonderful, brother. I enjoy the hell out of this. In fact, you're jarring my memories loose that I had forgotten to remember this stuff in years.
Well, let me tell you something. If they make this documentary, they're more than welcome to use any of this audio, man.
Well, that's what I was thinking, too, is if it's all right to run the
Come on, man. You just let me know what you want. This is... My job is to pull out information from you that you haven't thought about since that time. I think it's working out pretty well so far.
Oh, so far it feels real good, brother. I appreciate you're doing this too, and it helps me a lot to jar these memories loose. And I'm going to shoot you my ex's number up in
D.C.
Smithsonian.
Yeah. And listen, I'll send.
Her name is Teresa Neese. She's the head financial director for the Smithsonian. Now, Teresa is my girl. My ex, we were married for 8 to 10 years, and she always wanted to control things, and now she really does. So she's a hoot, but she's still got my heart,
All right, I'm going to send you those numbers right now. Please, if you need to get a hold of Joni and Jackson, call those cats.
I will do that, brother. Shoot that to me, and I'll shoot you Teresa Neese's phone number as soon as I get off here.
Much love, Wayne. I'll talk to you next week, man.
Thank you, brother.
All right, be cool, man.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.